Yes, I will. And just letting you know the recording has started.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, Chair Diehl, I have you. Vice Chair Nelson is excused. Brian Adams. Brian Adams. Ted Black. Ted Black. Rick Boisfort. Rick Boisfort. Darcy Davidson.
I'm here, thanks.
Thank you. Michael Desrochers.
Here.
William Hyde. William Hyde. Ed Kaminsky. Ed Kaminsky.
Female that's pregnant has multiple seizures.
Thought I saw Ed. Okay, we'll come back to him. Brandon Sullivan. Brandon Sullivan. Kevin Lefebvre.
Here.
Jonathan Lund.
Here.
Larry Medina.
Here.
Kelly Nicolello.
Here.
John Davin. John Davin. Craig Landau. Oop, Ed Kaminsky is just coming in. And with Ed's presence, Mr. Chair, we have just, well, we're still under a quorum. Just under a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Hopefully, during the presentation, one of the other members of the governing board will chime in and we'll be able to conduct our business as usual. What I'd like to go ahead and do, though, is go ahead and get our guest presentation started. Welcome to have Chief Crystal Sujeski. I know I'm saying that wrong. I apologize. Chief of Code Development and Analysis from the California Office of the State Fire Marshal. Crystal's going to give us a presentation on the California WUI code adoption. Chief, it's all yours.
Thank you so much. And I'm here at NFPA right now, so I apologize if there's a little bit of background noise. Do you mind if I share my screen?
Go right ahead.
Give it just a second. Okay, do you see it?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So, yes, so my name is Crystal Sujeski. I'm the Chief of Code Development and Analysis, and we're very excited that this Part 7 of Title 24, which is our building standards code here in California, was passed in February of this year. And it's you know, we had many work group meetings and discussions over the 2+ years. It was a concept maybe 7 to 10 years ago to really elevate just our chapter regulations for wildland into its own part. So John Morgan is the staff chief of the Defensible Space Program, and he's also one of the co-chairs of our state fire marshal's WUI group. And then Kevin Scott was brought on as our editor, and he really helped us, you know, take the framework of the International Wildland interface code and meld in our California amendments. So we've been doing this presentation at CFPI at different events. So we did an internal webinar and are planning to do an external webinar on this. So it's been tailored a bit. This is an 8-hour presentation, so I'm going to skip over a lot of the slides. And actually, I'm not quite sure. How long do I have for this presentation?
About 20 to 30 minutes.
Okay, so we'll make that work. So the objectives of doing this project and elevating like our Chapter 7A, our wildland regulations, was to really make it a one-stop shop. And what we mean by that is our regulations here in California have been scattered amongst different laws in the Public Resources Code and Government Code, Civil Code, and then also with our partnering or sister agencies, the Board of Forestry has what's called the Minimum Fire Safe Regulations in a Title 14. We also have Title 19, which is a public safety code. So again, to navigate all of these regulations within the state has been challenging. And then we have amendments to the International Fire Code, which is our model. And then we put in California language into a Chapter 49, which included defensible space and a term that we're now using, the fire smart vegetation. At the last international code hearings, the Group A, we partnered with FCAC, and that is a term that was accepted at those hearings. So hopefully we'll see it in the 27 edition of the I-codes. Our Chapter 7A, which is the building materials, systems, and assemblies for, when you're building in this unique environment, has been in the code since 2007. And we've enhanced it over time, but then bringing it to this new part, incorporating the defensible space standards from building, from the Board of Forestry, and then looking at the fire hazard severity zones, which is the mapping. And those are the things that trigger these local ordinances and where you want to be more restrictive in terms of, how you're being built and where you're building. So the catalyst to all of this is, our devastating fires. And we could put any fire up here, but the Palisades fire is the most recent. It was in January of this year, and there's some statistics that show, what had happened and the devastating property loss. With that, timing is always the thing. This is in January, and our commission meeting for this adoption to be finalized by the building standards was in February. And so there was a heightened, need that, this is a hot topic. We need this to happen. And fortunately, we were, foreseeing this and done the work to, to present to the commission and make this a real publication. So again, like I said, the other regulations that we brought in here, this is a California Building Code, Chapter 7A, Fire Code, Chapter 49, the Title 14, and then the other laws.
Masking tape when you have time. That would be today, it could be next week.
$10 every inch.
Fine.
Is there some question?
No, I think it was just background noise.
Oh, okay. So, how to use this code? So again, we based it on the International Wildland Urban Interface Code. We're calling it the CWUI for California, and it's not to be used alone. So it is an overlay code. When you're building any structure, whether it be a commercial or residential, you'd start with your base, and then these are the additional regulations that would come into play when you're in these environments. So, you know, when we look at the codes, the I codes, the chapter 1 is the scope and the purpose, and it also gives you the authority where all of these regulations are going to come into play. And so when we did this in California, we have specific authority given to the state agencies by legislation. And the building standards code has over the years evolved into, the non-building standards regulations being printed. With that being said, there is a lot of the California regulations that are non-building standards printed but not adopted. And those would have to either be adopted by the local agency having jurisdiction, or they are already in effect by a sistering agency such as Board of Forestry. So the vegetation requirements, the defensible space that come out of the law, those are non-building standards. But because we wanted to make this a one-stop shop, really user-friendly for designers, for even homeowners, we did print, but not adopt a lot of things. So the chapter 1 administrative provisions is really in the trainings we've been providing is essential to understanding where these regulations will come into effect. And so there is an appeals process, and then the application date. So in 2007, when the initial provisions in Chapter 7A were put into effect, it was an emergency regulation. And kind of the concept was presented to the stakeholders in a way that they can, have buy-in. And with that buy-in, I mean that there was a trigger date. The trigger date was here. So if you had a building starting in 2008, buildings located in the severity zone that was identified by the maps shall apply to the regulations. As we continue to look at that application date, we do understand that there are gaps in that because of retrofits or remodels or additions. So as it is today, those things, if you're doing a remodel addition or, some kind of retrofit, if the building or the home was prior to these regulations, then they wouldn't apply. And like I said, based on the most recent fires and the hot topics, even grant monies that are being allocated for retrofit, we're moving in a direction that this application date may not be in the next edition. But again, we're working through that in our work groups and our discussions and coming to a consensus proposal. Two items that have been identified by law, the roofing and the attic ventilation. These things are part of the exception where when you are replacing your roof for more than 50% here in California, then you would be required to go to the highest standard, which would be a Class A. So here we go. The format is, like I said, based on the International Wildland Urban Interface Code, and that is the foundation. But there are several sections that won't appear in our copy or our version of it, and those will be identified as reserved. Reserved is those are the class 2 and the class 3, and then the table that gets you to certain exceptions based on defensible space. And why is that? One, defensible space is driven by law, so there are no exceptions for it. You shall apply it. And then 2, we've kind of taken the approach of you're either in a wildfire severity zone or you're out. And, those embers will find the path of least resistance. So there is a one standard for all of the areas. Again, with advancements and looking at the international code and hearing from our stakeholders, we're working through what could potentially be for the local responsibility area in those lesser identified risk categories, like the moderate. But right now in the very high, what is designated by the state fire marshal on the maps, the regulations would apply for the local area. For the state responsibility areas, it's across the board. So the table of contents you'll see here is very familiar. And, the international code as a framework was really, I think, a good foundation because our residential fire and building code are all based on the same model code. And in that way, you have that familiarity of chapter 1 is scope and administration, 2 is definitions, and the framework is based on those chapters and section numbers instead of like an NFPA and articles and kind of like a different framework. So it really translated very well. You'll see that chapter or the appendices is where we deviated a little bit too, and we use those appendices for of the model ordinance, which gives the locals a template to use when they're adopting their fire severity zone maps. We also have the vegetation plan, a community framework where you may have a bunch of different information with public works or with your building department and fire department with your EMS, and you can put all of that into a framework for evaluation. And then characteristics of fire smart vegetation, and then those voluntary home hardening recommendations. So again, the one-stop shop approach, user friendly, not only for code officials or people that understand code, but more for general use as well. And so we have a cross-reference table in the back, similar to the matrix table where you would show adoptions, and it does have those matrix tables at the front of each of the chapters, but the cross-reference table is going to give you that really like a understanding of where the provisions came from originally. So this is an example of what it looks like. You'll see the section number here on the side, the title of that section, whether it's adopted, yes or no. And then if it was originated from like PRC, the Public Resources Code, you would have that here, or Health and Safety Code, or if it was a Title 14 provision. In this case, you'll see that it was also in the Building Code and the Fire Code. And then here's that statement about those non-building provisions. just like any of the other codes, when there's differences between the codes or the order of precedence, the law shall, be more, the law takes precedence over the regulation takes precedence over the standards, and then the more specific takes precedence over the general. So definitions, when we're melding the other regulations into the IWUI definitions, Chapter 7A, or our California specific definitions, and then other state agency definitions, there was some crossover in some of the titles, and they mean different things in different applications. So our approach to this was to put in parentheses the applicability, like where was it applicable to? And in this case, agriculture is applicable to the Title 14 provisions only. And then at the end of that section or the definition, you would see in brackets the code section of that other regulation. And when we spoke to legal about this, you could, in an enforcement role, incite when you're citing any deficiencies or a fire inspection report, you could use either or. So you could use the Title 14 section number, or you could use this Part 7 section number, and they would hold the same weight.
I think we just lost the connection or got broken up.
Yeah, she's frozen.
Oh,
There
there
she
she is. She's back.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm using my personal hotspot. It might have just glitched there. So, what did you hear last about the application?
Yes.
Okay, so this is just reiterating that for the state responsibility areas, we took the approach, you're either in the wildland area or you're not. And so they apply across the board, whether you're designated as a moderate, high, or very high. In the local responsibility area, it would be just the high and the very high. And this is based on Health and Safety Code 13108.5. In our working group for the next edition, which should be based on the 27 I code, we are looking at, what do our stakeholders want to do in the moderate areas? In California, there's also flexibility for the local jurisdictions to identify areas that could be considered wildland areas, but they're not necessarily designated on the maps that were provided. And that's a whole other presentation that you could probably ask our mapping folks to come and provide to you if you're interested. This has always been in the code. Certificate of completion is a final inspection report, as well as the certificate of occupancy. And then this vegetation management compliance. Again, we have laws here in California that dictate that this is a requirement when you turn over the keys or to that home or to the property owner. And how the locals apply this is really up to their process. So they can combine them all into one. They could have 3 different ones. And really, it's just the requirements are there, and how they do it is part of their business model. The maps, like I said, they are driven by the Public Resources Code. The State Fire Marshal provides them. They're on our website. If you have a specific area, this is kind of what they look like. We rolled out these maps in phases to the state. And you can see here, this is an example of, we have here high, and then moderate is the yellow. And then the grade areas are undefined. So that would be up to the local if they want to expand either that moderate into those gray areas or leave them as such. So it gives at least that flexibility to the locals. Because the law is written the way it is, the maps that were provided, the locals can only be more restrictive, not less. And then here's the model ordinance that we put in the appendices. This gives a template of how the locals could go about in the adoption of those maps. Access and water, this is really just like you would have in the International Wildland codes with the Title 14 blended in. Markings, access roads, and, you know, elevating those fire safe regulations from Title 14 has really daylighted this for some of the folks that didn't even realize that these are regulations that have been existing, because some of the titles and the way that they're on the website, you could get it through Westlaw. It's very bulky in terms of like understanding or where you can find these. And a lot of times they get missed. So bringing this into the Part 7 is really identified that, you know, these are requirements in the wildland. And like I said, this is a 8-hour presentation, so I'm gonna just like go through this pretty quick.
Yeah, we got
Addresses,
about 5 more minutes, Chief, but there is a question that maybe
Okay.
you can get to. It was in the chat, was how detailed will the fire hazard severity map focus in? And then who is enforcing the state responsible area?
Yeah, so the state responsibility areas are mostly from our units, the CAL FIRE units, unless there's some kind of MOU or agreement that is with a contract county. So it depends, but in the majority of it is the CAL FIRE units are doing the SRA or the state responsibility areas. Does that help?
I believe so. And then I guess the follow-up to the hazard severity maps, do they take into account the urban conflagration, house-to-house ignition, or are they based on the proximity to vegetation?
So there's let me see if I can go to our website real quick to show you guys where you find that detailed information on how the maps were. I think really the question is, how were the maps created? Is that really kind of like the heart of the question?
Sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was my question. Yeah, that was really the heart of it, and specifically in light of the growing realization of structure ignition from other structures.
Yeah, kind of similar to the Palisades, right? Or the Eaton fire, where, you know, they were identified as a hazard area. But, you know, when we look back at when they were being built in the 70s or 60s, which was the majority of them, that, you know, we didn't have the robust regulations that we do today. And so, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm having like the spinning thing here. But if you go to the website, thefire.ca.gov, and I think it's right on the front page, there's a video, and there is the science explained on how the maps were created. And so they took into effect topography, fire history, and there were modifications on the first rollout based on public comments before they were adopted on the development of, so an area that may have shown up as completely woods or, a forest area, and then had been, converted into a shopping mall or something like that, then, obviously the numbers would need to be recalculated based on that on the ground, boots on the ground, or knowledge of that local area. And that's where the legislation, when they wrote it for the locals and the state provided the maps, there was, some pushback because, it didn't give that flexibility of, hey, this area is completely concrete now, or, we don't have this risk. When the maps were done with the science that's identified in the videos on our website, it really tied their hands. So I know Darcy is on here, and she can kind of give you the local perspective on the adoption of those maps.
Yeah, and Christine was gracious enough to put a link in the chat. So for those maps and everything. So I think everybody will have the information.
Perfect. Yeah, and so I'll just close out with, building materials listings, because building materials, we have a listing program, part of our fire engineering division within the State Fire Marshal's office. We are mandated to list the fire alarm devices that are used in California, but expansion of that program is a service that we provide, and our engineers evaluate different building materials and ensure that they comply with the regulations. And so we did put together a handbook. Like I said, this is a voluntary service that if a product wants to be listed by our program, they can, and they submit their application and they go through the process, and then it does get put on our website as a material that complies to the regulations. And so, yeah, that's where I'll stop. Actually, let me go to the appendices. I think we touch on it a little bit about Fire Smart. This is really a more appropriate term for vegetation that is, drought tolerant and kind of holds water. It used to say ignition resistance, and we did get a lot of feedback that, there is no plant that is fire resistant. And then outbuildings, home hardening. These are the voluntary measures because, the homeowners do want to be responsible. What can I do to, help in my existing home? Well, here you go. You can do your fences, and data has shown, and we go through this, how this fence in this wildland area actually contributed to the loss of these homes, because you can see here in this this fire example, the grass was green and it just slowly crept up, and the fence acted like the wick in this example, and it was it's a video, so pretty interesting. This is the latest topic, is the Zone 0, and that's to remove the combustibles away from the home within that 5 foot. NIST and IBHS have done extensive studies to show that, this zone, if you can keep the embers away, that it does help with the survivability. So those are the test reports there. Low cost retrofit list, again, going back to the homeowner, well, what can I do? Can I clean my gutters? Can I put in new windows and stuff like that? So thank you so much.
No, thank you, Chief. I appreciate, the information. It's great information like usual, and being able to condense an 8-hour program into about 25, 30 minutes is an achievement in itself. So
Thank you so much.
it's great. There's her contact information. Of course, we can put that out in the chat. If anybody else has any questions or follow up, please reach out to one of us, Christine, Carl. We'll make sure we get you connected.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate it. All right, we will move into our meeting now. We do have a quorum, so welcome to Brandon and Doug. So I will go into any additions or corrections to the agenda, which Christine will, there we go, put it back up. All right, not seeing any. We'll go into the approval of the minutes. Everybody should have seen the minutes from last meeting. Any motion for the minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Anybody opposed? Very good. The minutes are approved. We'll work into our work group updates. I know everybody's had at least a couple meetings, and we'll start off with our member engagement. Mr. Medina, please.
Good morning. Oh, I'll fix my camera. Good morning. So the work group met last week on Wednesday. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time out of your busy weeks to attend. Through the help of Christine, we were able to secure Crystal's presentation this morning. So appreciate that. We're set with the speaker for July, and we'll continue to work and do work as far as that piece of getting speakers. Ongoing projects is just some tasks that basically Christine has helped us out as far as some coordination with the other work groups. But that's all I got. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. The questions? We'll move on to emerging issues and trends. Mr. Desrochers, please.
Good afternoon, everybody, or good morning, maybe where you are. So we had our monthly call here on Monday. We had 13 people attending the meeting. The group is working toward a process where we can share our Excel spreadsheet, and also developing a new way in which we can track and submit our topics. And at the next month's meeting, we may be in a position where we can share what we are proposing to do, and then obviously we'll seek some input from all of you here. But so the group is anxious to get this sharing of information out to the other work groups and to all the members here. So that took up most of our meeting on Monday. One little side piece, if you're not aware, the National Transportation Safety Board had conducted several investigations resulting from some natural gas explosions. So their policy advisor had sent an email out to all the governors across the country asking for support in the states coming up with rules to require natural gas alarms and numerous different types of occupancies, but it was kind of broad. So I just mentioned that because NASM has reached out to the policy advisor there at the National Transportation Safety Board to schedule a meeting so we can have a conversation with our principal members. And it should be, not to put Kelly on the spot, but Kelly knew a little bit about this too. And so that took up some of the conversation, really not an emerging issue here, but it is a topic that we tossed around and discussed for about 20 minutes on Monday. That's about it today, Chair Diehl.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Any questions? Jonathan, go ahead.
Yeah,
Sir.
I was just wondering, talk about natural gas detection, and if I feel like we keep picking off detection hazards one by one and incrementally protecting people's property, carbon monoxide, smoke alarms, carbon monoxide, now natural gas. And I know we're looking at probably 5 to 10 years down the road, maybe sooner, hydrogen conversion in homes. And I know they're looking at that for appliances. I'm just wondering if we don't look singular at natural gas and maybe look more broad picture at flammable gas detection overall, and not keep nickel and diming these hazards. Just a thought, a stream of conscious, but maybe it's a topic for a future meeting. Just want to get it out there.
Sure, and we actually discussed that in our call, because it did single out natural gas, and yet, rural Vermont, where I'm from, we have more propane here than natural gas. So we did talk about alternative fuels and all this stuff, and where's it going to go? Because I can see down the road you might end up with 6 different alarms inside your single family home.
Yeah, and we have a hard enough time maintaining smoke alarms.
Exactly.
Yep. Awesome.
Perfect point.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Like I said, excellent exchange. And moving on, we're into our public awareness. Kelly, please, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody. We had a meeting last week also, and so we put the finishing touches on an article with micromobility, and we are working on another one regarding cooking safety that we're almost done with, and we're also looking at prioritization of the remaining articles we have on our list as far as which ones have moved up or moved down in priority. We do that from time to time, and also bring in new subjects. One of those new subjects that we're going to consider is doing an article on basically what's required in a go bag. It used to be at one time that if you had to go stage left out of your home, you just left with the clothes on your back, and that's not always a good deal. And so we've got fire-prone areas, we have hurricane areas, we've got tornado areas. We've got flood areas, and the idea of having a go bag for yourself and your family, and maybe some the most important documents that you own, having them available in a place where if you have to go somewhere and you have to evacuate, you can do that at the drop of a hat. And that this whole discussion is something that we're going to have probably at our next meeting, and then decide where it goes in our list of subjects to discuss. So we had a full hour of discussion. I appreciate everybody's participation, and we just continue to move forward. As new items come up, we'll consider them and work together to kind of have each work group kind of take ownership of those things that involve them. And where it's not, then we'll put it out to the public and or to the fire service as appropriate as part of our audiences out there. So that's all I got to share for today. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Any comments, questions? All right, we move into training and education. Mr. Lund.
Yeah, I don't know if Ted's on, I don't see Ted on the call, but he's welcome to speak up if he is. We are fully feeling the brunt of summer vacations. We had a light group when we met last week. But we're still working on our 3 big goals for the year, and that is an instructor resource list. I've got some coordination to do on that. An inspector soft skills class, which Ted is heading up. And we're also working on 1-page instructional sheets geared for the code professional. On alternative energy is the decided topic for this year. So we're looking at doing a preferred provider for that resource list. We're still looking at ways that we evaluate instructors, but we're working on those things. We've just struggled to get everybody together to talk about it.
Understood, but I appreciate the hard work. It sounds like everything is moving forward. Here again, looking for those achievables coming out, and I know, the other groups will be able to help you, publish those things when you need to. So once again, thank you. Any comments or questions? All right, move into reports from officers and liaisons. And we will start with our governing committee board liaison, Sean Toomey, sir.
Hello, thank you. Home today. Coming actually was on red eye back last night from the NFPA conference. Director Weesey and I were out there, and I think Carl's probably still there as well. So, couple updates. We had a board meeting last week, virtual board meeting. Cleaned up some appointments for some vacancies, and then had a conversation that on some scope and intent items for the Energy Co, which ended up in exec session. We do have our summer board meeting in July. It's going to be in California. We're waiting to see what the final agenda is going to look like there. But one thing I did note on the draft agenda was some appointments for the Fire Service Membership Council. I'm assuming that's going to clean up the IAFC seats that are open at this point. Andy Higgins, you probably saw the press release, was appointed to fill the term by when Jose moved to a staff position. So looking forward to working with Andy in his new role. Reminder about the ABM coming up. The registrations are open. The Code of Honor Scholarship is open at this point. Some policy work still going on. That'll actually be in the July meeting as well. Cleaning up some information on the sovereign chapters. And then there's been quite a bit of work just continuing to fine tune the nominating committee process to get on the board. So that'll be part of the conversation for our July meeting. I think there's still two positions for the Professional Development Council, which the deadline is today. And then the reminder that the Emory Rogers Fellowship is open for applications. That deadline's in December. So I think that's all I had for now. I think I saw Director Metz on. I think Kelly has a question.
Hi, Sean. Just a quick question, if you don't mind. What's the status of the battery report? Has that been released yet?
I have not seen it released to everyone at this point. I believe it's going to be. Last we knew that they were going to come back at the July meeting with some follow-up as to sort of what the action plan is going to be. But I have not seen it released out to the general world at this point. I don't know, Director Metz, I don't know if you've heard anything else on your end.
Yeah, that report now is in staff's hands, and Russ Manning is working on steps forward based on the content of that report. The actual committee, the ad hoc committee, was disbanded at our April board meeting. So there probably will be some outreach to select individuals by Russ Manning on working with staff on some of the deliverables and the gap analysis there. But that's really where that is currently sitting. And we look forward to hearing an update from him, because the work that you all did on that was outstanding. Probably the best use of an ad hoc committee I've seen in a very long time. And we want to build on that, and we want to build on that quickly. as some of you may know, NFPA is standing up a new standard as well. And I don't know that they, what they're going to touch on their standard they're trying to develop, but we definitely want to get that out in the hands of the membership so they can see what you guys came up with. And I'm hopeful that that will happen by the time our meeting in Cleveland is, that would be released and in everybody's hands for comment and direction on moving forward.
I appreciate that. Thank you, both of you.
The only other thing that I have, with the appointment of Andy Higgins, that appointment is only through October. He will have to run to retain that appointment there. We do have 4 seats, 2 sectional seats, as well as 2 at-large seats that are up for election. 1 full 3-year term, which would have been Jose Roig's, because he only served 1 term, and then what will likely be a 1-year term for Director Savage that currently right now is running unopposed for Secretary Treasurer. He has 1 year remaining on his at-large term. The other 2 sectional terms are full 3-year terms. And I believe that would be Section B, which is Angie Weesey's current seat, as well as Section D, which is Ron Hampton's seat that covers a lot of the Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana, Michigan area. And if you have any questions on that, feel free to reach out. This is the first time we're using this new nominating process. So we're refining it, and some changes to council policies are in the works right now. But those candidates need to declare within 60 days of the ABM. I do also want to highlight that there is a bylaw change proposal that is on our ICC website. It is revisiting the proposal we brought to you guys last year that would give the board the authority to remove a elected director in very specific circumstances where we feel there is a huge concern over that director remaining on the board for whether that be a fiduciary issue, a legal issue. We're not trying to usurp your ability, which is currently in the bylaws, to basically recall a director, but there are specific circumstances that I'm sure many of you are aware of in years past where we had to deal with a very sensitive issue, and there was no way for us to address the issue until that individual had no longer had their government member voting rights. So that's really what this is about, where we made very minimal changes to what you saw last year, but we're trying to do a much better job of informing you as to why the board is bringing this back to you again. Something that we didn't feel we did a very good job of last year, explaining why we feel this is important to the membership and to the corporation as a whole. So if you have any questions on that, you can reach out to me directly, but it is all for your viewing pleasure on our website with that bylaw change proposal that's attached to the ABM side of the website. Other than that, Director Toomey did an awesome job as usual, and I look forward to being with you all in Cleveland.
Well, thank you, sir. Always great to see you. Good to have you back. Look forward to seeing you in Cleveland also. Any other questions or any other comments or questions? All right, we move on to, I didn't see any other ICC directors or chairs. So we'll move into the report from the chair. Basically, it's been a very busy time for me, staying on top of the membership steering council, as well as multiple issues going on at home and at work. The one little update I provide is that Maryland finally has a state fire code again that's relatively current. That process just happened and it goes in. So other than that, I'll turn it over to Vice Chair Doug Nelson if he has anything to comment on.
Good afternoon, everybody. No, actually, I don't think I have anything necessarily to report that is not already on the agenda. So thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. And we'll go to Miss Christine Reed for a liaison report from ICC staff since Carl is at NFPA. Christine.
Hi, good day, everybody. Director Toomey and Director Metz covered many of the things that I was going to touch on. Just a couple of additional items. Thank you to everyone who participated in the Building Safety Month in May. We had over 400 proclamations and 27 governor proclamations. So we appreciate all of you who participated in the very popular Building Safety Month again this year, and looking forward to next year. The only other thing is the fire prevention and safety grants are open for applications through FEMA. The applications close, or the deadline closes on July 3rd. So if you're interested in what the parameters of the fire prevention and safety grant is and what that application process is, you can go to FEMA's website. And that's all I have today. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Any comments or questions? All right, we will move into the Membership Council liaisons. Building Membership Council, Allison, I did see you on the call if you'd like to say anything.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Building Membership Council has really just been focused on filling out our goals. We are looking at anywhere we can partner with folks. So if there is something, I know we have an upcoming training we're going to do jointly together that we're looking forward to. Thank you to Fire Service Membership Council for doing the major lift and coordination on that. But if there are goals or considerations where we can partner with you, I know we've always worked well together and see great stuff coming out of you guys, but that's our main focus heading into September here.
Okay, thank you, Allison. The Membership Council Steering Committee, I'm going to hold my comments and remarks for the new business. And I didn't see anybody from Global, but is there anybody from Global? All right, emerging leaders, I did see Lisa on here. You'd like to give us an update, please?
Hi, everyone. Sure. We last met on June 9th. If you signed up for the mug swap, you should have received an email from Bonnie with the person that you're paired with. If you haven't, you can reach out to me and I'll get you connected with her. The Vote for Your Kurds survey ends in July, so if you haven't done that and have a few seconds to do that, I'll throw the link in the chat. You just scan it and answer a few questions so that we can gather information about people's experience with and comfortability with the code development process. And then Greg gave us a presentation on voter validation. Just a reminder that that is due September 20th for the annual business meeting. And I think that's all I have.
All right, very good. Thank you. Comments or questions? Move into sustainability. I did see Shane on here. If you would like to give us an update.
Yeah, thank you. At our last meeting, we had a rather spirited discussion about embodied carbon and which ICC code books, code proposals regarding embodied carbon should be in. The discussion was started by a letter drafted to the board of directors by the editorial committee, the SEPCAC. They were looking to limit the scope of books where embodied carbon would be, where proposals or code proposals would be limited to ICC 700 and the IGCC. There, like I said, there's a lot of spirited discussion, and I think there are two camps. One was all for limiting it to those two books, and the other were felt that the embodied carbon could be in any of the ICC books. And then just as a reminder, our coffee with the SMC is tomorrow morning at 10 Central. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Any comments or questions? Is there anybody from either major jurisdictions or PMG? See anybody? Okay, we'll move on into ongoing business. Does anybody have any ongoing business? All right, seeing no hands, we'll move into the new business, which is basically an update. As you all know, the Membership Steering Council Committee has one of their primary responsibilities is to provide the annual report from the other councils to the board. Last year was our first document that we did, and we created a template based off of that. This year, we're going to expand on that, and we're still going to use the same template, but the goals we have to be updating. So there is a deadline for our councils to provide this information. The one of which is actually tomorrow is for any partial information for the annual report to be due. Fire service is already in pretty good shape. The leadership has been able to provide information and kind of update some things, add some things in preparation for the final. That final information is due in a month. It should be done by July 18th so that we can get it to the steering committee's leadership core so they can start gathering it, putting it in, making sure that the information's in that good template. I just bring this up because I want the chairs of our work groups, to understand why it's so important to provide this information. So I will be reaching out. Vice President Nelson and I both will be reaching out to the work groups to make sure that where we are and if there's any updates for those goals that we can provide for the final document or the final information for next month. I want to make sure that we're all on the same page and that we're all prepared. And I guess I'll just kind of open up if there are any comments or questions about the annual report or what FSMC is providing in the report. Okay, the next order, Chief, I saw Metz. Randy, did you have a comment or a question? Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that, this is an extremely important portion of the reporting process to the board that really shows the value of the membership councils. So don't skimp on what you're reporting. We always have discussions on the costs associated with membership councils and where's the value is. And I think this is your opportunity to really show the board all the stuff that all of our membership councils have contributed. And it's nice to have it in a single report to us. And we do take that very seriously when we look at and have that discussion ongoing on membership councils and what they bring to the table for us. So just wanted to add that from a board perspective.
No, I appreciate that, sir. And you're absolutely right. This is where we get to showcase what this group does. And, we do a great work as well as the other councils. The next item you'll see is the call for membership counseling, the governing committee applications. These will be opening up June 30th. So they will be opening up this month. They will run through the month of July till August 1st, at which the applications will close. We do have 2 members that will be terming out their first term this year. So if they are still interested in continuing on for their second term, they would need to reapply at this open call for committee or council. So I would encourage everyone to be looking for those emails and to take advantage if you need to, or somebody who would like to take advantage of that and have those applications and submittals ready. Again, that's going to be June 30th. The applications then are presented to the governing councils for nomination recommendations. It's going to be a compressed timeline again. So what's probably going to happen is in July, at our July meeting with the building membership, one of the topics will be creating our nomination committee. So just be aware of that and be prepared for sitting on those. We usually take one from each of our representative groups. Is there any comments or questions about the membership council governing committee election? All right, very good. I'll take any questions, comments from the audience. Any good of the order? Anybody have any comments, questions? Chief Black, go ahead, sir. You're on mute.
Thanks, Tim. I apologize for being late. We had a fuel dispensing problem on a lake that we had to take care of. Anyway, I got to the last 5 minutes of the meeting.
That's fine, sir. I appreciate you being able to chime in and get here. I understand that emergencies happen. As was noted before, we did change, we moved, or we are having, the joint meeting with the Building Membership Council. The speaker will be A2L refrigerants again, which is a hot topic for not only the building officials, but also the fire service. It will be Thursday, July 17th at 1:30 Eastern Daylight Time. I would look forward and put it on your calendar. I expect another great turnout from both organizations and being able to exchange a lot of good information then. So if nobody has anything else, I will take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Very good. I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you very much. Take care, and we'll see everybody later.
See you later.
Thanks, everybody.